Steve, take it away. These are major reversals.
Yeah, I mean, when you see, as you just said there, Harris 5 points up on Trump in our national poll here, to put that in some perspective, take a look. We're going back a year in time here. This, by the way, this is the first time our NBC poll has tested Harris and Trump. Of course, there had been Biden before this. And just take a look. The Biden versus Trump results that we had found going back a year, tie, Trump by 2, Trump by 5, Trump by 2, Trump by 2. And now all of a sudden you have Harris by 5 in our latest poll. So again, just big picture, how much the basic dynamics of this race changed when Kamala Harris became the Democratic candidate and Joe Biden stepped aside about 2 months ago. And then you mention it as well. Take a look at this, the general impression that voters have of Kamala Harris, asking that question, is it positive or is it negative? And it was 32% positive for Kamala Harris. We polled this right before she got in the race in July. She was at 32% positive then. She is up to 48% positive now. Notably, that's above water, slightly higher positive than negative. Of course, you compare that to Donald Trump, 40-53, 40 positive, 53 negative. That's territory you're sort of used to seeing Trump in right there. And by the way, again, Biden, obviously still the president, but this is the kind of number here that Democrats had been saddled with Joe Biden as their candidate. Low positive, high negative. And now you can see Harris running significantly here above Biden on that positive negative. And then there's also this question, again, getting to perceptions here that voters have of the candidates, asking which candidate better represents change in our poll. You can see 47-38, the advantage for Harris over Trump right there. And perhaps a bit of a surprising finding, Trump, a former president himself, but, Harris, the incumbent vice president in what is still an unpopular administration, but more seen by more as the candidate representing change than Donald Trump at the moment.
And Mark Murray, so there's now a 33-point gender gap, with Harris nearly doubling Joe Biden's lead in July among women, but she's still having trouble with men. So what does this have to do with? Do you think it's misogyny? Is it that the abortion issue is pulling more with women than men, even though, of course, both men and women are affected? How do you read it?
Well, Andrew, we actually have had a sizable gender gap in the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections. So there was one that already exists, but 33%, a 33-point swing, if that ends up holding, would be historic and could end up representing one of the major storylines of this election. But we're going to have to see what the final data shows on that exit poll. But, Andrew, what we actually are finding in the ballot test between Trump and Harris is that Harris is doing better, particularly with black voters, than Joe Biden was before he bowed out. Harris is doing better, particularly also among younger voters and among women. But some of the groups that actually haven't changed, and I do think this is interesting, independents haven't moved that much, and Latinos so far haven't moved that much from the support of Joe Biden back in July versus Harris now.
Well, in fact, the Latino vote is so important to her in Georgia and in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has a very large Latino vote. And right now in Pennsylvania, it is so close in that Senate race. In fact, it's now in some polls, just in the last couple of days, a tie between the veteran, well-known Bob Casey, whose father was before him, an office holder and so popular, and Dave McCormick. What do you see going on in Pennsylvania?
Andrea, we actually in the past week have received so many different polls when it comes to Pennsylvania, and you're actually right. Some of them actually show a tied race at the presidential level, very close contest in that key Senate race that you were just identifying. But there have been some other Pennsylvania polls that have shown Harris with a slight lead, although within the margin of error. And I do think at this point, with 2 months to go, a lot of us are identifying Pennsylvania as that potential tipping point state. Whoever ends up winning Pennsylvania could very well end up having the edge in the race to 270 electoral college votes.
Steve, I want to ask you about the economy and the 41% who say the cost of living, jobs, the economy are the most important issue facing them, still facing Donald Trump, despite the disparity in the Trump and Biden records on the economy. But at the same time, we have reweighted the polls since the last couple of cycles where we realized that national polls were underestimating the Trump vote. Have they fixed that problem, do you think?
Well, have they fixed it? Well,
I know, we won't know until we know.
We
Right?
don't know until election night. Although I would say the problem in polling, too, that we've had in the last two elections that I've seen is it's more state-specific and sort of geographic and demographic specific, which is to say, when we say there have been big polling misses in the last couple of elections, it's not like the polling in every state was off by, 4, 5, 6 points. It was really, really off in the upper Midwest, in states like Wisconsin, in states like Michigan, somewhat in a state like Pennsylvania, not so much last time around in a state like Georgia or in a state like Arizona. And it seems that in those sort of Great Lakes states, if you want to call them that, the Big Ten states, whatever you want to, a term you want to apply, there was that sort of, there was a Trump voter there, a blue-collar, white Trump voter. It was undercounted in the polls. There was a change in the polling between 16 and 20 that was designed to account for that in the 2020 election. Didn't seem to account for it properly. 2022, a lot of these polls that had missed badly in 20 held up better. But of course, the variable that was missing in 2022 was Donald Trump actually being on the ballot. He, of course, back on the ballot in 2024. And I think it's one of those big questions you got to think about every time you see a poll, especially in those Midwest states there. And one that, I think heading into the election, it's one of the huge variables.